The ships appeared above Earth without warning. They were not small. Each vessel was the size of a city, with strange metallic surfaces that reflected light in ways that hurt to look at. The Karath had arrived, and they did not come as friends. The United Nations called an emergency meeting within hours. World leaders gathered in video conferences, their faces pale with concern. The message was clear and official. It came through every channel at the same time, in every language on Earth. The Karath Empire, a civilization that controlled hundreds of worlds across the galaxy, had decided that humanity was too weak to join their community. They did not believe humans deserved a place among the stars. The lead speaker was a Karath diplomat named Veshka. He appeared on every screen on the planet. His skin was a deep purple color, and his eyes were completely black, with no white showing at all. His voice was smooth, but carried an edge of danger. He explained that the Karath had a simple rule for all new species they encountered. If a species could not fight, they could not survive. If they could not survive in combat, they had no value in the galaxy. It was not cruel, he said. It was simply the way things worked. The Karath offered a solution, though it was hardly kind. They would give humanity one chance to prove itself. One representative from Earth would fight one representative from the Karath. If the human won, Earth would be accepted as an equal member of the galactic community. If the human lost, Earth would become a colonial world under Karath rule. There would be no independence, no freedom. Humans would work for the Karath until they were no longer useful. The world reacted with fear and anger. Some people thought it was all a bad dream. Others began to panic. Governments held secret meetings about what to do. Military leaders discussed whether humans could actually fight creatures from space. Scientists studied the images of Karath that had been broadcast. They all came to the same terrible conclusion. The Karath were bigger, stronger, and faster than humans. The odds of winning seemed impossible. But Earth's leaders knew they had to try. Giving up without a fight would mean certain slavery, so they began to search for the best warrior humanity could offer. Major Haewon Park was training at her base in South Korea when the news came down. She was in the middle of a combat exercise with her soldiers. She was 42 years old, but her body was strong like someone much younger. She had spent her entire life studying martial arts and combat. Her hands were tough from years of training. Her mind was sharp from decades of studying how to fight, how to win, and how to survive when the odds were against her. When her commander told her that the world needed her, Haewon did not hesitate. She said yes immediately. She understood what this meant. She understood that if she lost, billions of people would suffer. She understood that she might die in that arena. But she also understood something else. She understood that humans had always survived by being clever, by being quick to think, and by never giving up. Perhaps that would be enough. The media found out within hours. News channels around the world began running her name on their screens. Haewon Park, a woman who had won every martial arts tournament she had ever entered. A soldier who had survived in dangerous places across the planet. A fighter who had trained since she was a child in the old ways. News reporters tried to interview her, but she said nothing. She had no time for talking. She had only time for training. Her family reacted with mixed feelings. Her younger brother Jiho wanted her to refuse. He told her that fighting an alien from space was not the same as fighting other humans. He said that the Karath probably could not be hurt the way humans could be hurt. He said his sister would die if she tried, but their mother, Hannah Park, told her son to be quiet. She had raised Haewon to be brave. She had taught her daughter that some things were worth the risk. She embraced Haewon and told her to fight well. The government moved quickly. They set up training camps for Haewon. Scientists came to study her body. Doctors made sure she was perfectly healthy. They showed her videos of Karath warriors in battle. She watched how they moved. She listened to how they fought. She studied their patterns like a scholar studies ancient texts. But the most important moment came when they brought her to see Master Kimte. He was 83 years old and lived in a small temple in the mountains. He had trained HFY when she was just a girl, before she became a soldier. He had taught her the old ways, the methods of fighting that had been passed down through Korean martial arts for hundreds of years. When HFY saw him, she bowed deeply, as she always did. Master Kimte looked at her for a long time without speaking. Then he smiled. He told her that she would need more than strength to win this fight. He told her that the Karath believed their size and power made them unbeatable. He said that this belief was their weakness. He began to teach her something new, something he had not shown her before. He taught her how to use an opponent's own strength against them. He showed her the places on any creature's body where size became a disadvantage. He explained that the bigger something was, the harder it was to control all of it at once. Around the world, people began to pray. Some prayed in churches, some in temples, some in mosques. They all prayed for the same thing. They prayed for HFY. In cities and small towns, people gathered to watch videos of her training. Children wore shirts with her name on them. She became more than just a fighter. She became a symbol. She became hope itself. The Karath, meanwhile, announced their champion. His name was Vraxthon, and he had not lost a single fight in 200 years. He was 7 feet tall with skin that looked like crystal or glass. He was so strong that he had once lifted an entire vehicle with one hand to show his power. He was not just a warrior. He was considered the greatest fighter in the entire Karath Empire. The Karath released videos of Vraxthon's past victories. In one fight, he faced an alien creature that had 3 arms and thick armor all over its body. Vraxthon defeated it in less than 1 minute. In another fight, he faced a warrior known for incredible speed. Vraxthon moved faster and crushed his opponent. Video after video showed the same thing. Vraxthon always won, and he always won quickly. The Karath government made their position clear through broadcasts that reached every corner of the galaxy. They believed that HFY would lose. They believed that all humans would lose. They said that humans were made of soft skin and weak bones. They said that humans got tired quickly and could not think clearly during fights. They said that putting a human against a Karath warrior was almost cruel because the outcome was so obvious. HFY heard all of this. She read the comments from Karath diplomats. She listened to their words of mockery, and she said nothing in return. She simply trained harder. She ran faster. She practiced her techniques with more focus and intention. She asked Master Kimte the same question over and over. She asked if she could really win against someone so much bigger and stronger than herself. And Master Kimte always gave her the same answer. He said that in all of human history, humans had never been the strongest. Humans had never been the fastest. But humans had always found a way to win. He told her that intelligence was the greatest weapon that any creature could have. He told her to trust in her training, trust in her preparation, and trust in the human spirit. The date of the duel was set, 17 days away. The entire world began counting down. Everyone waited, and everyone hoped. HFY Park prepared herself in silence, knowing that the fate of her entire species rested on her shoulders. The training center was located in an underground facility far away from the cities. It was built like a fortress, with thick walls and security guards at every entrance. Inside, there were rooms for studying, rooms for sleeping, and a large open space where HFY could train for hours without stopping. She spent almost every hour of every day in that facility, preparing her body and her mind for what was coming. 3 days before the duel, Master Kimte arrived at the facility. He was very old now, and the travel had tired him, but his eyes were bright and sharp. He said that he had something important to teach HFY before the fight, something that could not be learned from books or videos, something that could only be taught by a master who had lived a long life and understood the deep secrets of combat. They went to the training room alone with no cameras and no observers. Master Kimte began to walk slowly around Haiwan, studying her carefully. He looked at how she stood. He looked at how she breathed. He looked at her hands and her feet. After a long time, he spoke. He said that she was strong and her training was good. But strength alone would not be enough. He said that Vraxthon would probably be stronger. But strength was not everything. The old man began to teach her a technique that had been kept secret in his family for many generations. It was not a new technique. It was an old one, passed down from masters to students for hundreds of years. The technique had a special name, but Master Kimte told her to forget about the name. Instead, he told her to focus on understanding the idea behind it. The idea was simple but powerful. Every creature, no matter how large or how strong, had weak points. These weak points were not weak because they were soft or small. They were weak because they were points where all of the creature's strength came together. If you could control these points, you could control the entire creature, even if it was much bigger and stronger than you. Master Kimte showed her where these points were. He showed her the joints of the human body where bones connected to each other. He explained that these joints had to bend and move in certain ways. If you used the right pressure at the right angle, even a small hand could break a large arm. He taught her how to feel for these points. He taught her how to apply pressure without giving the opponent any warning. The most important lesson came at the end. Master Kimte told Haiwan that Vraxthon would be overconfident. He said that all champions become overconfident after winning so many times. He said that overconfidence makes warriors careless. He said that careless warriors make mistakes, and warriors who make mistakes lose fights. He told her to wait for Vraxthon to make his first mistake. When he did, she would have only seconds to act. She would need to use his own momentum and his own strength against him. If she did this correctly, his size would become his weakness instead of his strength. On the second day before the duel, a scientist named Dr. Nari came to visit Haiwan. Dr. Nari had been Haiwan's friend since they were both young children. Now Nari worked for the government studying alien creatures. She had spent the last few weeks analyzing everything known about Karath biology. She had information that could help Haiwan understand her opponent better. Dr. Nari showed Haiwan detailed studies of how Karath bodies were built. She explained that Karath had a crystalline exoskeleton, which made them extremely hard on the outside. But this hard outside came with a problem. It was very difficult for Karath to move with flexibility. Their joints were less flexible than human joints. Their arms and legs could only move in certain directions and certain ranges. Most importantly, Dr. Nari showed Haiwan the weak points in a Karath skeleton. The wrists were particularly vulnerable. The crystalline structure was very strong when it came to straight impact, but it was not designed to resist twisting motions or pressure applied at angles. A skilled fighter could potentially break a Karath wrist if they knew exactly where to apply pressure and how much force to use. Haiwan listened to everything that Nari told her. She asked questions. She looked at the detailed diagrams. She studied the research papers. And slowly, a plan began to form in her mind. A plan that seemed impossible at first, but became more possible the more she thought about it. That night, Haiwan could not sleep. She left her room and walked through the empty corridors of the training facility. She found herself standing in front of a large window, looking out at the night sky. Somewhere above that sky was the space station where the duel would happen. Somewhere above that sky was Vraxthon, probably sleeping peacefully, confident in his abilities. She thought about what would happen if she lost. She thought about what would happen to her family. She thought about her younger brother, Jiho, who would have to live his life as a slave to the Karath. She thought about her mother, who had raised her to be brave, and now might lose her daughter forever. The weight of all these thoughts was almost too much to carry. But then she thought about something else. She thought about all the humans throughout history who had faced impossible odds. She thought about ancient warriors who fought against larger enemies. She thought about ordinary people who had done extraordinary things because they had no choice. She thought about the fact that humans had survived and thrived on Earth not because they were the strongest, but because they were smart, adaptable, and refused to give up. The next morning, HFY went to say goodbye to her family. Her mother prepared a meal with all of HFY's favorite foods. They sat together in a small room while Jiho watched. Her mother did not cry. She was strong like her daughter. She told HFY that she was proud of her. She said that no matter what happened in the arena, HFY had already done something remarkable just by being willing to try. She said that courage was more important than victory, and HFY had shown more courage than anyone else in the world. Jiho was quiet throughout the meal. He was only 20 years old and did not fully understand how serious this was, but he could feel it in the air. He could see it in his mother's eyes. He could see it in his sister's face. He knew that something very important was about to happen, and he was afraid. As HFY was leaving, Jiho suddenly hugged her very tightly. He whispered to her that he was sorry for doubting her. He told her that he believed in her now. He told her to fight hard and to come back home as a victor. HFY hugged her brother back and told him that she would try her best. She told him that whatever happened, she wanted him to remember that she did not fight for herself. She fought for him and for everyone like him. When HFY returned to the training facility, Master Kim Tae was waiting for her. He told her that her preparation was complete. He told her that she had learned everything that could be taught. The rest would depend on her ability to stay calm, to think quickly, and to trust her training when the moment came. He placed his hands on her shoulders and looked directly into her eyes. He told her that she was ready. He told her that no human had ever been more ready than she was, and he told her something else. He told her that in all his years of studying combat, he had learned that the greatest warriors were not the ones who were strongest or fastest. The greatest warriors were the ones who refused to accept that they could lose. That night, HFY slept deeply and peacefully for the first time in weeks. Tomorrow would be the day. Tomorrow, she would walk into that arena and face Vraxthon. Tomorrow, she would either save her entire species or condemn it to slavery. Tomorrow would be the most important day of her life. And she was ready. The space station appeared in Earth's orbit like a giant metal structure that seemed to defy gravity. It was designed to be neutral ground where different alien species could meet without fear. The arena inside the station was the largest gathering space ever built. It could hold 50,000 beings, and every single seat would be filled today. Representatives from 12 different alien civilizations had come to watch the duel. Some came out of curiosity. Others came because they had money riding on the outcome. Many came because they wanted to see humanity fail. HFY was transported to the station by a special spacecraft. The journey took only a few hours, but it felt like days. She sat in a small cabin and stared out the window at the black of space. She thought about her training. She thought about what Master Kim Tae had taught her. She thought about the weak points in a Karath skeleton that Dr. Nari had shown her. She did not eat. She did not speak. She simply prepared her mind for what was coming. When the spacecraft docked with the station, guards in white uniforms came to escort her to the arena preparation area. They were polite and professional, but HFY could sense something beneath their politeness. She could sense doubt. They did not believe she could win. They were probably thinking about what their lives would be like under Karath rule. The preparation area was a small room with everything HFY would need. There was fresh water. There was simple food if she wanted it. There were stretching mats and equipment where she could warm up her muscles. On a table sat the clothes she would wear for the duel. They were minimal. Just a thin pair of pants and a sleeveless shirt made from a special material that would not restrict her movement. No shoes. Just bare feet, so she could feel the ground beneath her. She changed into these clothes and began to stretch. She moved through the exercises that Master Kim Tae had taught her. She focused on making sure every part of her body was flexible and ready. She breathed slowly and deeply, keeping her heart rate calm. She did not allow herself to feel fear. Fear was a poison that would only distract her from what she needed to do. Through a door, she could hear the sound of the crowd gathering. There were thousands of voices, speaking in different languages and making different kinds of sounds. She could hear the excitement. She could hear people betting money. She could hear the anticipation of beings waiting to see if a human could possibly defeat a Karath champion. A guard came to tell her that it was time. She followed him through corridors made of white metal. The sound of the crowd grew louder with every step. Her heart was beating faster now, but her mind was clear. She was ready. This moment had been coming since the day she was born. Everything in her life had been preparation for this single moment. The entrance to the arena opened before her, and suddenly the sound was overwhelming. 50,000 beings were screaming. The noise hit her like a physical force. But she did not hesitate. She walked out onto the arena floor with her head high and her face calm. The arena was designed like the ancient fighting grounds that humans used to have, but much larger. It was a circle of open space with towering walls around it. Above, there was a clear window showing the stars of space. The floor was smooth and hard, perfect for fighting. Lights from above made everything bright and clear. Every movement would be visible to everyone watching. Around the edge of the arena, she could see the different alien species. Some were large, some were small, some had shapes that seemed to defy understanding. Many of them were wearing the colors and symbols of the Karath Empire, which meant they were betting their money and their support on Vrax Thon. The people from Earth had made signs and banners. They held up pictures of Hai Wan. They made noise to show their support, but it was almost impossible to hear them above all the other sounds. An official Karath arbiter stood in the center of the arena. His name was Threshka, and he was famous for being completely fair in combat decisions. He was much smaller than Vraxathon, but had an air of authority about him. He raised his hands, and slowly, the noise of the crowd began to die down. Then another gate opened on the opposite side of the arena. Vraxthon walked out. Even seeing him in videos and pictures had not prepared Haywan for how he looked in person. He was absolutely enormous. His body was at least 7.5 feet tall, maybe 8 feet. His skin shimmered like crystal in the light, with colors shifting across his surface like an oil slick. His muscles were so large that they seemed almost unnatural. Every movement he made showed the incredible power that was contained in his body. He wore nothing but a simple covering around his lower body. His entire upper body was exposed, showing off the strength that had never been defeated. He did not look concerned. He did not look worried. He looked like someone who had done this 1,000 times before and knew exactly how it would end. The crowd roared. The Karath supporters screamed with excitement. The alien beings from other species made their own kinds of sounds. Vraxthon raised his fists to acknowledge the crowd, and they roared even louder. Haywan stood perfectly still, watching him with calm eyes. She did not raise her fists. She did not make any kind of victory gesture. She simply watched and waited. Threshka raised his hands again to silence the crowd. When it was quiet enough that he could be heard, he began to speak. His voice echoed through the arena. He explained the rules of the duel. No weapons of any kind, no technology, no outside interference. The match would end when one fighter could not continue, either through knockout, submission, or surrender. Victory would go to the fighter who remained standing and able to fight. Vraxthon stepped forward to the center of the arena. He was confident and calm, moving with the ease of someone who had never lost a fight. Haiwan walked forward to meet him. The two fighters stood facing each other, separated by only a few feet of space. The difference in their sizes was shocking. Vraxthon towered over her. If they reached out their arms, his would be significantly longer. His hands were 3 times the size of her hands. His body was built for pure power and destruction. But Haiwan did not feel small. She did not feel weak. She felt focused. She felt prepared. She felt ready. Threshka looked between the two fighters. His eyes showed some surprise. Perhaps he expected Haiwan to look afraid or desperate. But she looked calm. She looked collected. She looked like someone who had a plan. The Karath Arbiter raised his hands high above his head. The arena fell completely silent. 50,000 beings held their breath. On Earth, billions of people watched on screens, their hands clasped together in prayer and hope. Threshka brought his hands down sharply, and the match began. Vraxthon did not hesitate. He did not spend time studying his opponent or testing her defenses. He did not approach slowly with caution. He simply moved forward with the confidence of a creature that had never met anything it could not destroy. His first movement was fast. His first attack was powerful, and it was meant to end the fight immediately. He threw a punch from his right side. It was a simple, direct movement. There was no wasted energy. It was the kind of punch that would crush bone and tear flesh. The power behind it was so great that it created a visible wave of air pressure as it moved through space toward Haiwan's face. The sound of that single punch was like the crack of a whip, and it would have been enough to kill any normal human instantly. Haiwan moved. She did not move backward. She did not brace herself to take the impact. She moved diagonally, sliding to the right by barely more than a foot. Vraxthon's fist passed so close to her face that she could feel the heat of his skin. The punch continued past her and smashed into empty air, making a sound that echoed through the arena. For the first time, Vraxthon threw his full power into a punch and hit nothing. There was a moment of surprise on Vraxthon's face. It was just a flash, just a second. But Haiwan saw it. She saw that for the first time in 200 years, an attack had not worked as expected. Vraxthon recovered quickly. He turned his body and threw another punch, this time from his left side. It was even faster than the first punch. But Haiwan had already anticipated the movement. She had watched videos of him fighting dozens of times. She knew his patterns. She knew how his body moved when he threw a punch from each side. She moved again, this time to the left, and once again the massive fist passed harmlessly through the air, where her head had been just a moment before. The crowd began to make noise. There was confusion in their voices. They had not expected the human to avoid even a single attack. They had not expected Vraxthon to miss at all. Haiwan did not attack. She did not throw any punches. She simply moved. She stayed just outside of Vraxthon's reach, making small adjustments to her position every time he attacked. She breathed calmly. She kept her mind clear. She watched and waited. Vraxthon grew angry. This was not how his fights ever went. He had always dominated from the first moment. He had always overwhelmed his opponents with pure power and speed. This small human was making him look slow and clumsy. He began to throw more punches and more kicks. He attacked from every angle. Left side, right side, overhead, low. He threw combinations of attacks that would have torn any normal human into pieces, but none of them hit. None of them even came close to hitting now that Haiwan had found the rhythm of his attacks. She moved with precision, barely avoiding each strike by the smallest margin possible. Her movements were elegant and efficient. She did not waste any energy. She did not panic. She simply existed in the space between attacks, always just out of reach. The crowd was confused. Some of the aliens watching did not understand what they were seeing. They had come to watch a human being destroyed. They had come to see Haiwan crushed and defeated. Instead, they were watching one of the greatest warriors in the galaxy miss almost every attack he threw. The Karath supporters were beginning to look concerned. Some of them stood up from their seats. Some of them shouted encouragement to Vraxthon, telling him to push harder, to move faster, to finish the human quickly before something unexpected happened. But HFY's people were beginning to believe. They began to cheer louder. They began to see that their representative was not just surviving. She was being smart about how she fought. She was making Vraxthon work harder with every attack that missed. She was making him frustrated, and frustration could lead to mistakes. 2 minutes had passed since the start of the match. Vraxthon was breathing harder now. His movements were still powerful, but they were becoming less controlled. He was throwing attacks with more force but less precision. He was overcommitting to his strikes, leaving gaps in his defense, and HFY was noticing every single gap. She began to move closer during his attacks. She began to position herself where she could almost reach him. She was starting to make him feel like he was getting close to hitting her. She was making him think that the next attack might finally connect. This hope pushed him to attack even harder. Vraxthon threw a long series of powerful strikes. Left punch, left kick, right kick. His body was moving in big, powerful movements. Each attack was meant to crush anything it touched, but each attack missed. Then he did something that HFY had been waiting for. He overcommitted to a massive hook punch from his right side. It was a wild swing designed to catch her if she tried to run away or if she had gotten too close. It was a punch fueled by anger and frustration more than by strategy. As the punch came toward her, HFY saw her opening. She saw the moment she had been training for. In that split second, everything seemed to slow down in her mind. She could see exactly where Vraxthon's arm was going. She could see that his balance was slightly off because of the wild nature of his attack. She could see that his right side was completely exposed. Instead of moving away from the punch, HFY moved toward it. She moved into the attack, under the reaching arm. Her movement was perfect. It was practiced and smooth. In one fluid motion, she was inside Vraxthon's guard, closer to him than he had ever allowed any opponent to get. She reached up with both of her hands and grabbed his right wrist. Her grip was perfect. Her hands found exactly the right position that Master Kimte had taught her. Her hands found the weak point in the crystalline structure of his joint. Vraxthon realized what was happening. He tried to pull his arm away, but it was too late. HFY had already begun the movement that Master Kimte had taught her. It was a movement that looked simple, but was the result of hundreds of hours of study and practice. It was a movement that used Vraxthon's own momentum and his own strength against him. It was a movement that applied tremendous pressure to his wrist joint in a direction that the crystalline structure was not designed to handle. There was a sound. It was a sickening crack that echoed through the arena. It was the sound of crystalline structure breaking. It was the sound of bone fracturing. It was the sound of the undefeated champion experiencing pain for the first time in 200 years. Vraxthon screamed. It was a sound of shock and agony mixed together. He tried to swing with his other arm, but HFY had already moved away. She had already released him and put distance between them. Vraxthon fell to his knees. His right arm hung at an angle it should not have been able to hang at. The crystalline structure of his wrist was visibly cracked, with lines running through it like a broken window. He could not fight anymore. He could not even move his right arm anymore. The arena exploded with sound. The noise was deafening. Some beings were screaming in celebration. Others were screaming in shock. The Karath supporters sat in stunned silence, unable to process what they had just seen. On Earth, billions of people were crying. They were celebrating. They were jumping up and down. They were hugging each other. They were screaming with joy. HFY stood calmly in the center of the arena, breathing steadily, waiting for the official decision. And after a moment, Threshka raised his hand and pointed to her. She had won. The impossible had happened. Humanity had defeated the greatest warrior in the Karath Empire. The silence that followed the announcement lasted for only a few seconds. Then the arena erupted. It erupted not with the sounds of celebration, but with sounds of shock, disbelief, and confusion. The Karath supporters were standing up, screaming in protest. Some of them demanded that the decision be reversed. Some of them claimed there had been cheating, that it was impossible for the human to win fairly. But Threshka, the official arbiter, simply raised his hands for quiet. He announced clearly and firmly that the match had been won by the human fighter, HFY Park. The decision was final and binding. The medical workers rushed into the arena to attend to Vraxthon. They were Karath doctors, trained in caring for creatures with crystalline exoskeletons. They carefully examined his wrist, and their faces showed the same shock that everyone else was feeling. The damage was severe. His wrist would require weeks of treatment and recovery. A warrior who had never been defeated in 200 years had been beaten in less than 5 minutes by a human. HFY stood calmly as the medical workers worked. She was not celebrating wildly. She was not dancing or shouting. She was simply breathing and being present in the moment. She felt proud, but she did not let it show too much. She had not won this victory for herself. She had won it for every human on Earth. The representatives from the other alien civilizations were talking to each other excitedly. Some of them had money riding on the outcome of the match, and now they would win large sums of wealth. Others were simply amazed at what they had witnessed. They had come to watch a human be destroyed, and instead they had seen one of the most impressive victories in combat that they had ever seen. They had seen a warrior use intelligence and technique to defeat raw power. On Earth, the celebration was beginning. In the control room, where they had been watching the match, government officials were hugging each other. Soldiers were cheering. Scientists were jumping up and down. The news that spread across the planet was the same everywhere. HFY had won. The human had defeated the Karath champion. Humanity was safe. In the streets, people began to gather. They held parades even though the sun had not set yet. They held signs with HFY's name on them. They made speeches about human courage and determination. They sang songs about victory. In South Korea, where HFY was from, the celebration was especially loud. Schools released students early so they could celebrate. Shops closed early so workers could join the festivities. Master Kimtae was watching from a room on the space station. When he saw Vraxthon fall to his knees, tears filled his old eyes. He had trained HFY since she was a child. He had taught her everything he knew, and she had used that knowledge not just to survive, but to achieve something that most beings in the galaxy thought was impossible. He was more proud than he had ever been in his entire long life. Dr. Nari was in another room surrounded by scientists who were all talking at once. They were discussing what they had just seen. They were analyzing the technique that HFY had used. They were understanding for the first time that crystalline structures had weaknesses that they had not previously realized. The knowledge from this match would change how the Karath Empire understood their own bodies and their own strengths and weaknesses. Vraxthon was transported to a Karath medical facility. His wrist would take a long time to heal. Even with advanced alien medicine, it would be weeks before he could use his arm again. And even after it healed, it would never be exactly the same. The crystalline structure would have scars where it had broken. The weakness would always be there. The legend of the undefeated champion was over. HFY was given a medical examination by human doctors who had been brought to the space station. They confirmed that she had suffered only minor injuries. She had some bruises where the wind from Vraxthon's near-miss punches had struck her. She had some small cuts on her hands from gripping his crystalline wrist, but nothing serious. Nothing that would not heal quickly. She was healthy and strong and ready to return to Earth as the hero of all humanity. The Karath government sent an official message to Earth. They acknowledged that the duel had been won fairly according to all the rules that had been set before the match. They announced that they would honor the agreement. Earth would be accepted as a full member of the galactic community. Humans would have all the rights and responsibilities of any other sentient species. There would be no slavery. There would be no servitude. There would only be equality. But the message also contained something else. The Karath government was calling for a review of their entire system of determining which species had value and which did not. The victory of HFY had changed something in their understanding of the universe. They had believed that strength meant size and power. They had believed that the biggest and the strongest were always the winners. But they had been wrong. The smallest fighter had defeated the largest and strongest warrior ever to live. This meant that everything they believed about civilization and power needed to be reconsidered. The journey back to Earth took several hours. HFY sat in the spacecraft and looked out at the stars. She did not sleep. She did not eat. She simply looked at the universe and thought about everything that had happened. She thought about Master Kimte and his ancient knowledge. She thought about Dr. Nari and her scientific research. She thought about her family waiting for her on Earth. She thought about all the billions of humans who had been praying for her victory. When the spacecraft approached Earth, she could see the planet below. It looked beautiful in blue and green. It looked like home. There were ships in orbit around the planet, but they were no longer threatening. The Karath ships were simply waiting. Their purpose changed from conquest to cooperation. The spacecraft landed at a military base near Seoul, South Korea. When the door opened and HFY stepped out, the noise was overwhelming. There were thousands of people waiting to see her. They were soldiers and government officials and ordinary citizens. They were all cheering and celebrating. HFY walked down a long pathway toward the gathering. She was still wearing the simple clothes from the arena. She had not changed. She did not have time to change. Her family was pushing through the crowd to reach her. Her mother was the first to embrace her. Hanna Park held her daughter so tightly that it was hard to breathe. She was crying, but they were tears of joy and pride. She told HFY that she had known all along that she would win. She said that she had always known that her daughter was special and strong and brave. Jiho was next. Her younger brother hugged her so hard that she laughed. He kept saying that he was sorry for doubting her. He said that she had done it. She had actually defeated an alien champion. He said it over and over as if he still could not believe it was true. Master Kimte was there too, making his way slowly through the crowd. HFY saw him and went to him. She bowed deeply as she always did when she saw her teacher. But this time Master Kimte embraced her instead of bowing back. He told her that she had made him proud. He told her that she had honored everything he had taught her. He told her that this day would be remembered in history for thousands of years. The government officials were waiting to make official speeches. They announced new programs for human integration into galactic society. They announced new treaties and trade agreements with alien civilizations. They announced that HFY Park would be awarded every honor that the nation could give her. But HFY was not interested in honors. She was interested in what came next. She was interested in making sure that humans could take their place in the galaxy as equals. She was interested in learning from other species and teaching them about humanity in return. She was interested in building a future where her brother and all future generations of humans could live in peace and equality among the stars. That night, HFY returned to the small home where she had grown up. She spent time with her family. She told them everything that had happened from her point of view. She told them about how her hands had been shaking slightly when she first walked into the arena. She told them about how she had focused on Master Kimte's teachings and nothing else. She told them that at the moment of victory, she had not felt happy or excited. She had only felt relief that the wait was over and that humanity was safe. As she was preparing for sleep, Jiho came to her room. He asked her if she had been scared. Haywan thought about the question for a long time before answering. She said that she had been terrified. She said that she had been more scared than she had ever been in her entire life. But she said that she had done it anyway because some things were worth being scared for. She said that protecting her family and her entire species was worth any amount of fear. She told her brother that courage was not the absence of fear. Courage was doing what needed to be done, even when you were afraid.